Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening in the stars above us. Beginning this morning, December 1st, if you can believe it, it's the first day of the last month of the calendar year. Although, as you know, it's not really the last month of anything. It's really just the 12th month of the year. And in fact, December itself technically means the 10th month of the year. The prefix DEC referring to the number 10 and the fact that in the astrological year, this month was actually not the first month, or not the last month, excuse me, before we go into a new year. So welcome everybody to the show this morning. We have a fairly quiet week on tap, which is always good. The biggest news of the week is the full moon in Gemini. And we also start the week today with the moon's information so that we have an idea of what direction that we're heading from as we move into the week ahead. And today the moon is in Aries. And then we will talk about the only aspect pattern really of note today, and that is Venus, freshly in the sign of Sagittarius, coming into a sextile with Pluto in the early degrees of Aquarius. And Sagittarius and Aquarius, two signs with similar themes, although not quite exactly the same eye to the sky. And then we'll also talk about the new Human Design Week, which begins on the 3rd. And it is a week where we start to really get into a rhythm of sorts, or where we have to start looking at the rhythms and cycles that we are within. And then as well with the Earth during this week in the Gate 35, the experiences that we have had that we can share with everyone. And then, of course, the full moon in Gemini, which occurs on, let's see, I didn't turn my calendar yet, but I do believe it's on the 4th. And it is a strange moon in that it's a super moon. It's a big moon, comes, proximity to Earth is close. And it is the final super moon of 2025. And it is also one that has a lot going on, but not a lot going on, if you know what I mean. It's like the moon and the sun are there, but they're not necessarily doing anything much. It's the rest of the story that has a lot to do with what's happening. And then as we end the show today, we'll talk a little bit about what is coming ahead for the rest of the month, if we get a chance to. All right, so good morning to those of you who are checking in with me. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you're from the USA, we had a beautiful Thanksgiving. For once, it didn't rain the whole day. So we had, opportunities to go outside, but we had a lot of good food, a lot of family, friends dropping by. It really was a very good day. And then Friday, Saturday and Sunday, just days to decompress after all the crazy of getting ready for the holiday. But also it just seems like for me, and I don't know about for you all, but for me, it really felt like I needed the time to just relax. And some of that was successful and some was not. But either way, it was a good weekend or 4 days off. So let's start with today's moon. And this is not something that I really like to ever see on a Monday, but here we are. We are at the end of the moon's transit through the sign of Aries. And that means we are getting ready to move into a void of course moon. Now, for most of us, the void of course moon kind of goes over our heads. Like we don't always notice it. But if you've ever noticed that the energy just kind of drains out of something that you've been working on, or that you can't get your feet beneath you to get moving on something that you need to get done, then you're likely encountering a moon that's in the void of course. And essentially what that means is it's a moon that is not making any other new contacts to planets or points until it makes a sign change, which in this case, the moon is in Aries and will move into Taurus tonight. But from 1:15 this afternoon, East Coast time, until 10:19 p.m. East Coast time, it's in the void. So for those of us on the West Coast, that means like from 10 o'clock this morning until this evening, there isn't much going on, right? So here we have a Monday where things are supposed to start getting rolling for the week, and it may end up being a slow start to the week for some of you. And actually, you may start out fine, right? If you're starting work at 7 or 8 or 9 in the morning, you've got a good start, and then the feet fall out from under you. So as we move into the void, if it feels like things are stalling out for you, that is why, right? And it's not that, you're imagining anything. It's just that the energy is sort of just gone dried for a while. Now, before the moon hits the void, and while it's in the void, it's moving through the gate 42 of our human design. And the gate 42 is called the gate of celebration. And that's where it is at this moment, right? So we're in the part of the moon cycle where we're coming to a completion of sorts, right? And that makes sense. The full moon is coming up on Thursday. So we're in this time where things are beginning to find a closure, find an ending. And then the moon will move into the gate 3, and the gate 3 is the gate of innovation. Now, there's something weird about the gate 3. So the gate 3 is really all about innovation, right? And it's a sign of independence in a way, or individuation. We call it a mutable gate, or a mutation gate, because it really holds this energy of starting something new, starting something fresh, something untried and untrue yet. But it also is where that new beginning finds a tough time kind of getting its feet underneath it. And, that's right there with a a moon that's in the void, right? Having trouble getting something going. And yet, this is full of potential. So don't give up, right? But I would also say, if you're hitting a wall energetically today, let it go, right? Just put it on your desk or put it back up on the shelf until you feel ready to restart that. And that might not be until tomorrow, right? Tomorrow we'll have the moon in Taurus, and maybe that's a great time to get to building whatever it is that you were working on, and to have the wind at your back, so to speak, with the moon. Now, gate 42, let's go back to that for a moment, because it is a gate of closure, completion. It's also gratitude for the finale, right? Gratitude for being able to bring something into the end. And it's really what lets you acknowledge what is ending, or what is coming into its fullness, like what is ripening to its time for expression. And gate 3 is the chaos before the order comes in the gate, right? Sometimes we think of the gate 3 as creating some chaos as we're trying to get things moving, trying to get things going, and we're not really sure yet which direction to take that. It's the spark of innovation, however. So the moon will move us through that spark of innovation, and it's the willingness to try something new, to try something even if it feels messy at first, and if it feels like you don't know what is going to happen. So today's moon really, and the gates that the moon is in, really make it a beautiful setup for cleaning the slate before the full moon comes this week, for finishing what's been lingering, what's been hanging around, and opening the space for the new to be birthed later on in the week. But once we hit the void, the universe tells us, don't push, let things settle. And the more that you would try to push against that settling, the more frustrating the day might become. So just be watchful for that. Now, tomorrow is one of the transits of the week, and there aren't very many. I mean, the full moon really is holding the space for most of what happens this week. But tomorrow, Venus, newly in Sagittarius, comes into a sextile. It's already in the sextile, basically, with Pluto in Aquarius. So this is supportive and clarifying, maybe even a truth amplifying alignment. Now, partly that comes from the placement in human design where Venus sits. Venus is in the gate 34. If you'll remember, the sun was there a couple of weeks back. It was the gate of power, where remember we were all manifesting generators for that week. We all were imbued with this power of motion, of getting things done, of the energy of the sacral. Remember that? Well, now Venus is sitting here. And this is the manifesting generator, perhaps, gate of raw creative life force given to Venus. So Venus, the harmonizer, Venus, the one who loves relationship, Venus, the one who settles our finances or helps us to get direction with our finances. So this is where desire and action sort of fuse, right? The transformation can really begin. And Pluto, meanwhile, is in the gate 60. And remember, that sits on the root center. The gate 60 is the gate of conservation. And interestingly enough, today, when the moon hits the gate 3, it'll form the whole channel of mutation. So as we get later in the day, we might have that hit of what it is that needs to change in our lives or what that new direction might be. But remember, the 60 conservation is all about the limits and the boundaries and the moments where we're working what's real, what's true in our lives. And this is a fantastic duo, really, of Venus and Pluto coming together, because the gate 34 says, I have the power to create, right? I have the power. And then gate 60 says, but you must shape that power within the container of what's possible, right? We have to have the vessel that holds the liquid, right? Or holds the gold, or holds the spark of what's coming. So the sextile, which is just a word that means harmonizing, right? The two energies between Venus and Pluto are harmonizing energies, and it is refining our desires. It is helping us to prune away what no longer fits. And if the future is, in our minds, and we're seeing what we want to build for the future, this particular sextile will help us delete, if you will, what doesn't serve, right? To be willing even to let go of what doesn't serve, so that we can channel our energy into what really matters, right? And let go of the rest. We don't want the distractions, and we don't want the emotional impulses, and we don't need the busy work. We just need to get on the pathway of what it is that we're trying to create. Now, if we look at this through the gene keys, right? I love the gene keys, and this is what astro design is all about. So you might hear me call this astro design, and it's when we bring astrology, human design, and the gene keys together to get a fuller picture of what it is that is possible for all of us. If we look at the gene key 34, you might remember this from a couple of weeks ago. We move from the energy of force in the shadow, force being a shadow energy, a fear that we need to push to get things done. And that moves us to the gift of strength. And then that pushes us into the siddhi, or the highest explanate of majesty, right? Majesty. So that word always freaks me out a bit, but majesty, when I think about it, is just the fullness of what could be. And then the gene key 60, that moves us from limitation in the shadow, right? The small you, the you keeping yourself down, into the gift of realism and onto the siddhi of justice. So those are three interesting words as well, put together by the planet Pluto, which, by the way, I'm not bringing it up too much today, but Pluto will make a gate change later this week. We'll deal with this on Friday, where he's moving out of limitation and into the gate 41, which is fantasy and imagination. So we move from the small little what is to the what could be later in the week with the planet Pluto. Big changes ahead, perhaps, for what's going on in the bigger, wider world. So the story we're living right now is about moving out of the forcing of outcomes, right? Where we're trying to push and we're trying to scrape and, scrap and get all, stressed out over what we're doing. and into strengthening our focus and grounding our desires and choosing what is real over what is reactive, right? So pair that with today's moon in Aries and the long void of course moon, approximately 9 hours of wandering, right? The wandering moon. And you get a message that's actually quite elegant. Start the week with clarity. Celebrate what's complete or what's coming into completion. Let the void slow you down and prepare you to step into a more empowered, authentic relationship with your desires as Venus and Pluto come together to reshape the field of energy and what's possible tomorrow. So this is creation, but with boundaries, right? The womb holds the fetus before it can be fully formed, to allow it to fully form and be birthed, right? Without the container, what would happen? Power with purpose, and then desire with wisdom, right? So with that, we are walking into the moon energy from the fiery Aries into the grounded earthy Taurus tomorrow, or late tonight, right? Late tonight. So that tomorrow, as we start our workday once more, that we're more grounded in what's possible, right? And we can move forward deliberately and with a plan, perhaps. All right. Good, good. Good to see everybody out here this morning. Let's see. Go back. I first saw Amanda J. Good morning from England, I believe. And Julie, good morning to you. And then I saw Pam Zaruba. Good morning, everybody. Been a while since you made it live. I know you've been real busy learning some other things. That's kind of cool. Jacqueline, good to see you. Happy Monday. Christina Whitner, good morning to you. Joan Durchie, hello. Patty Hickox. Like, share, and subscribe for a full experience. I love it. Thank you very much. I wonder if I could bring it up while I'm talking to you guys. There's this thing here that I can put on there, like and subscribe. That's hysterical that they actually have that. So hit the like button or hit the heart button if you are on Facebook, and subscribe if you are on the YouTube channel and have yet to do that. Good morning, Tamra. It's great to have you with us. Let's see, TD Hawk or Tamara, no meeting with the children's book author yet. A close friend of hers passed, and so she's taking care of things for him, but we will as soon as our schedules allow. That is awesome, right? So you're just being patient, patiently waiting for the right moment, because the right timing is everything, right? Teddy, Janet, love your mad body language. Right, with the energy shifts into Sagittarius, that puts it across from my sun, and I start getting all amplified and amped up. So thank you. Good morning, Asa. I so missed you this morning. It was the first day. Asa has been my virtual assistant for, I don't know, quite a while, and we are moving in different directions now. And this morning was the first morning I didn't have, hey, I dropped all your social media things in this file and I missed you. Good morning, Tom. Great to see you with us this morning, and all the rest of you who are out there that aren't in the chat where I can see you. Let's move on. We are now going to move into what it is that it means when the sun moves into the gate 5, called the gate of rhythm or habits or patterns of action. And then the earth moving into the gate 35, which is the experience. So Tom, this is interesting for you because your sun in your human design chart sits at the gate 35. So now you have the earth coming into a conjunction with your sun in the gate 35. So it would seem that your experiences have some kind of momentum this week for you to be sharing maybe with other people. Now, that's the energetic backdrop for the rest of the week. Now, the sun will move into the gate 5 on the 3rd and through the 8th. So we have about a 5-day window where the sun's connection to rhythm and the earth's connection to experience are all up in our faces, right? This is one of those weeks where the cosmos really invites us to find our internal flow, right? Your rhythm, while also stretching into new territory to gain more experience, right? It's a dance between consistency and evolution, of which we need both, right? If you were overly consistent, then it gets towards stagnation, right? Or toward that comfort zone, stuckness. And so evolution, though, without a basis, something that you can really anchor into is pointless, right? Then it's moving ahead and mutating without any real anchoring. So got to have both. So the sun in the gate 5 rhythm. Now, this is the heartbeat of natural timing, and this is on the sacral center. Actually, I can share this with you because share screen, because I actually did a presentation thing this morning with this. So here we go. So here's the sacral center, the pink one toward the bottom with the gate 5 highlighted in the light blue. So the gate 5 is this heartbeat, right? It's the heartbeat of natural rhythm, natural timing. This is where we do not force ourselves into some kind of artificial expression of timing. It's the cosmic reminder, if you will, that everything unfolds in right timing, and best when it's unfolding in the universal timing versus our trying to force or make something happen. It's not rushed, it's not forced, it's not manipulated into being. And when the sun lights up this gate, the gate 5, you're encouraged to find your flow, right? To align with your flow, not force yourself into a flow, to honor your energetic cycles instead of pushing through them, and then to create space for what wants to unfold naturally, right? What wants to unfold naturally, leaning into divine timing as it is, instead of the artificial pressure that we feel from usually the outer world to do something or to make something or to be something that's not quite yet ready. Now, in the gene keys, the gate 5 or the gene key 5 moves from the shadow of impatience, where we're just restless and we've got to get something done. And it moves into the gift of patience. And then it moves on into the siddhi of timelessness, right? So the shadow this week is the anxious urge to hurry, to be ahead of schedule, to force clarity. The gift is patience, where we have the ability to sit inside this transition time that we're in without losing ourselves. And then as we do that, we move into the siddhi of timelessness, where all things happen in a time beyond time, right? It's so very interesting, the energy of this gate 5. Now, Earth, of course, is always the grounding, right? So we can't tap into timelessness if we don't have the energy of the Earth taken care of. And the Earth is in the gate 35 up on the throat center. So what do we know about the throat center? It is the center of manifesting and communicating, of bringing something out of the ethers, if you will, or up from the body and giving it life by giving it words and bringing it out, right, to the world. So the Earth brings us the grounding through the gate 35, which is really the gate of emotional variety and of exploration. And it's a hunger gate, not the Hunger Games. It's a hunger gate, where the hunger is, what else? What else is there? What else can I share? What else can I experience? This is the energy that grows through contrast almost, where trying new things, meeting new people, and stepping beyond the familiar surroundings causes growth, right? Or causes us to take on a bigger experience. And in the gene key, this is the frequency band that moves from the shadow of hunger. I'm hungry for something, but I don't know what, into the gift of adventure, where I see life as an adventure, and ultimately into the siddhi of boundlessness. Another one of my favorite gene key words, boundlessness. The shadow is that restlessness that we feel. I need something new right now, or I just need something right now to fill the void, perhaps to fill my hunger. In the gift, it's adventure, where I'm open to the experience of something new, but without needing it to fill a void, right? There's something new awaiting me. And then totally up in the Siddhi version, it's this boundlessness that we feel, the no boundaries, right? That we have the ability to engage with when we get out of the need for filling the void, right? So together we have rhythm and we have experience this week. We have the sacral and we have the throat center, energies that are creating space for us to get something done or to become something more. And when the sun and the earth align in this pairing, the message is about honoring your natural rhythms while letting life bring you the next chapter, right? And in its own time and in its own way. And this energy teaches us not to chase the novelty out of impatience. Don't chase what's new just because you're feeling so anxious and restless that you've got to do something, right? Boredom is another thing. Boredom sits at the gate 36, the opposite one of the 35, which just so happens to have Saturn sitting at it, right? So we have the possibility that we end up doing things just to ease this feeling of anxiety that we have inside. So don't chase that novelty, that new experience just because you're impatient. Also, don't cling to routine out of fear. We don't need to keep doing the same things all the time, right? Try the new thing. Let experience meet you at the right moment. The right timing is so important, and it's not the forced timing. Let curiosity be grounded, not frantic, right? This is telling us to, we have this energy, this ability to be in the vibe, to be doing things, but not from a position of forcing it to happen, right? Don't force it to happen. So gate 5 holds the beat, the natural rhythm, the heartbeat of the body, the heartbeat of the energy. And gate 35 provides the variation, right? The different experiences, the different fruit that we could try. And together they create a life or a week where that life brings this next step as you hold your inner center. You stay in your center. And what's beautiful is that this sun-earth dynamic lays the groundwork for the Gemini full moon the next day on the 4th. And because this full moon is all about information and insight and perspective, it helps with our shifting into a natural rhythm, right? To keep that natural rhythm. You're meant to stay in the rhythm so you don't get swept away by the mental world or the overload of information and the potential for new experiences that may come your way this week. So this pairing helps us stay healthy and grounded, aligned energetically, so that we, as the energy is building in the full moon, that we can actually take those next steps as they are presented to us. All right, so that takes me to the full moon. All right, so let's see who else is out here this morning. Rise and shine. I'm so hungry and don't know what. That's MD. And I feel just being quiet. Very good. Maybe quiet is the best way to feel, especially in the arms of a void of course moon that we are about to experience here today. All right, so let me share now the screen of the full moon. And as you can see, there's a lot going on here that I will break down for all of us. But first of all, this is the last supermoon of 2025. It's also the last month of the calendar year, but who's counting, right? And the Gemini supermoon really magnifies the realm of thoughts, conversations, and information, and also perspective. So this lunation, this period of time of the moon's being full, is asking us what truth is trying to break free or to break through the noise. What's trying to come through? And it's been an interesting time, even for me, as I'm always, countering my what am I doing with what is it I want to do, right? And where is it that I want to go? And who is it that I want to be? And that feels like a very loud drum beat for me right now, as it might be for all of you. And here we also have something very interesting going on. Note the orange cross here. So the full moon is at 13.04, 13 degrees of Gemini. The sun will be at 13 degrees of Sagittarius. That's an opposition, right? They're opposite of one another. But also, the nodes are also always opposite of one another. And they are also in the mutable signs with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. And Virgo and Pisces square Gemini and Sagittarius. So in this full moon, we have a mutable, because they're mutable signs, grand cross. And if I had filled this in, this would look like a giant square in the pattern in the sky. And this is where this big energy comes in for the week, but also for this full moon period of time. And no, this does not happen at every full moon, because I had to go look, because I thought, oh, have I missed this through all the full moons? Are all the full moons always, in a square or grand cross with the nodes? But no, that does not happen. And yet it's happening because all four of these are in mutable signs right now, right? And this cross creates internal and external pressure. So while I'm telling you, to stay within your boundaries kind of thing, but also to grow a little bit through experience, stay in your natural rhythm and don't force things, this mutable grand cross creates that pressure that wants change, right? So we're being pressured to change. And by that pressure, I mean to let go. We're being kind of asked to let go of what stands in the way of where it is that we want to go. These are choice points, to put it in the words of Greg Braden, choice points where we come to maybe a fork in the road and we are choosing whether we go right or we go left, right? Choice points. This is a time of perspective shifts where we go, oh man, I see this in a different way now. It is a pivot in your thinking. It is a pivot in your direction. Maybe it is your thinking or direction, or maybe it's both, right? So this is the buildup. And the mutable grand crosses push us to adjust, to adapt, and to release any of the outdated narratives that we have been forcing on ourselves, right? Or that we have been living through. Now, if we look at this from the astro design point of view, right? What does this look like in your human design? We have already talked about the sun and the earth at the gate 5, the sun, and gate 35, the earth, or the moon in this case also being at the gate 5. And this is natural timing. The moon rules timing, right? The moon rules timing and natural timing. So we're asked for patience, or to have patience. We're asked to stay in sync with life's authentic beat, with the natural heartbeat of and rhythm of the cosmos. Now the nodes, which we haven't talked about in a bit, but they are at the North Node in the gate 63, which is called the gate of curiosity. So this is forward movement happening through inquiry, not through certainty. Like there isn't real certainty yet about what direction, but there's the curiosity. I wonder what would happen if I tried this. Then the South Node at the gate 64, and that's up on the top center, the head center, called divine transference in quantum human design. And this is where the old confusions dissolve into insight as we release the mental clutter, right? When we release ourselves from all those thinking patterns. So together with this mutable cross in the full moon, we have this stay grounded in your rhythm. And that's a big message. Stay grounded in your rhythm as your mind is stretched into new terrain, new territory. And let curiosity lead without losing your center, right? I can be curious about how something might work, and I can even try a taste test of it. But then I might go, yeah, no, that didn't taste right. I don't want that, right? So I can come back to my center. So it's about the curiosity to take you into a new territory, but not all in at first, right? Let's test the waters just a bit. Now, this full moon, by the way, is occurring on Thursday, December 4th at 6:15 p.m. East Coast time. That means 3:15 for those of us on the West Coast, and it means 11:15 p.m. at night for those of you who are in the universal time zone, the old GMT, right? And England, right? The prime meridian area. And then later, it'll be for those people further east. It'll actually happen early in the morning on the 5th. So we have, this energy of the mutable Grand Cross. That was the first thing that caught my attention, because if you look, there's nothing really sitting here with the moon, and there's nothing real over here. We have, there are some other planets going in Sagittarius right now, but nothing close enough for me to say, the sun is conjunct Venus, or the sun is conjunct Mars. It's close, but I'm not certain that I would make this an actual conjunction. So we have the Grand Cross that really holds this energy. Now, inside of the Grand Cross is also the Grand Water Trine, right? This is the emotional and spiritual stabilizer pattern that we've had for a very long time. And you can see it here in black. I outlined it. It comes from the Neptune-Saturn conjunction up here in Pisces right now, to Jupiter down here in Cancer, and then over to the Black Moon Lilith also in Scorpio. So 3 water signs. Now, that Grand Water Trine has been going on for a while, right? And this provides this emotional buoyancy, let's call it, right? Your ability to bounce through the different emotions by being spiritually grounded, right? Your spiritual grounding holds the space for all of the floating through of these different emotions. A soft landing zone even, while the mutable cross stirs everything up. It steadies the waters and enhances maybe the intuitive soul level guidance that's coming through the Grand Water Trine. Now, I also want to go back to a configuration that has been holding steady, moving just a little bit around through time, and that's our Minor Grand Trine. Remember, this is the architecture of evolution. This is the architecture of the future. It's holding this space. And again, with Neptune up here in Pisces, Uranus over here now at the later degrees of Taurus, but still, within orb of the space in Gemini, where it really holds that trine or sextile. And then Pluto over here in Aquarius. And, this is, that configuration that gives me hope for our future, right? No matter what uglies are happening in the world at the moment, this architecture is holding space for us to grow and to evolve beyond some of the things that are happening in our world right now. So this creates this flow of long range structuring, restructuring energy, but doesn't exactly form a kite. So it doesn't hold it's part of the kite, right? That's formed, but it isn't actually making the kite anymore. It would be off, directionally. Instead, the Gemini supermoon is directing our attention toward the Saturn-Neptune apex right here, right up here up at the top. And that's Neptune. I know I'm pointing and you guys can't see the pointer, but Neptune and Saturn together in Pisces up there. And it's directing your attention toward this spiritual architecture point, if you will, without creating the full kite. So we're really getting this idea that there's something important with the Neptune-Saturn conjunction. And energetically, it kind of feels like handle the unfinished emotional and karmic cleanup before we can accelerate in 2026 when these things again click into their Aries position for the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, and the Uranus moves back into to Gemini, and they can again form that Minor Grand Trine more closely. They're still within orb, right? They're still affecting us. but it just seems like right now we have to handle the unfinished business first. Now, it's the universe then clearing the space, the workspace, if you will, before new construction resumes. Right. So what is it we have to clear away? If you're building a house, sometimes you have to clear all the old debris away before you can bring in, say, the trusses to build the roof, or the walls, or the other things you have to clear away. Right. Now, there's something else happening in this full moon that I find quite interesting. And I circled it here, where we have Mercury down here in Scorpio, and now direct, right? He's no longer in retrograde, and he's holding an inconjunct. You can see the green dashed line that moves up here to Chiron Eris, circled in Aries. And here, this is layered into this full moon. And it's the moment that's subtle, but it's also a sharp aspect, because remember, Mercury rules the mind and how we process thoughts and how we, use our intellect, and how we communicate what we know, right? How we put words to the things that, we want to say. And then Chiron is the wound, right? The wound that's also the healing spot in all of us. So this brings perhaps some discomfort around speaking your truth this week, or with this moon, from full moon, say, to the new moon. And it might bring up some hidden emotional material, something that's been hiding in the dark, something that, has been emotionally dogging you. And it might rise up through conversations that you have with people, or conversations that you overhear other people having. And the old wounds then can get triggered by communication. Typically, somebody talking directly to you, you talking directly to someone else. And it might also be vulnerability that, once we open up our minds and we open up our hearts and we get out of the old thinking patterns, that we can, be opened to insight, to seeing things that we didn't see before, to, heal through honesty, and to do that even if it feels awkward, right? Feels awkward to us, or sounds awkward, to our voices. So the essence of this full moon is really interesting, because it's a full moon of realignment, for sure, right? It's a moment with clarity might speak, when clarity might speak, might break through your old mental processing. You might hear the old narrative and you're like, whoa, wait, gotta stop talking like that, or speaking to myself in that way. And so the full moon becomes a crossroads, right? The cross, the mutable crossroads, that asks you to choose authenticity over habit. And here's where the sun at the gate 5 becomes extraordinarily helpful, right? It helps us to move into a natural rhythm, a natural habit, right? A natural flow, as opposed to the fake one that we've put ourselves in. So let go of the old narrative is what this full moon says. Ask better questions. Maybe follow your curiosity into new places. Let your intuition guide your realignment at this point in your life, right? Because this supermoon is clearing the path so that 2026 can unfold on cleaner ground, right? Where this can, be a cleanup time, so that when we get into the real juiciness of 2026, and maybe the difficulties of 2026, we have our grounding beneath our feet, right? We are steady. Now, I also want you to notice in this full moon that there is a kite. There is a kite. It's just not the one that I thought would be there. And it does include the grand water trine, but its apex points up here to Uranus in Taurus. So I outlined it here, right? We have the Neptune, Saturn in Pisces leading over here to Taurus. And then we have the Taurus Uranus also leading down to the point of Jupiter in Cancer. And Jupiter and Neptune Saturn are also in a grand trine with the black moon Lilith in Scorpio. So we have a kite, right? Because the other part of that is the opposition then between Uranus in Taurus and the black moon Lilith in Scorpio. And this pattern sort of ties all of these different themes together, right? And the kite's spine is that opposition, right? Then we have the apex leading, this is the direction This is the up direction at Uranus. And then the rudder or the tail in the black moon Lilith that holds us steady. And both Jupiter and Saturn, Neptune, and the black moon Lilith in a trine close this triangular base, right? Really hold the meat and potatoes of all of this. So this geometry, which this is all geometry, right? Angles and directions and degrees, really tells a very clear story. It's the story of revelation that leads to a breakthrough, that leads to emotional integration, a la the Grand Water Trine, and then to structural reorganization, which is happening both on the spiritual level and the physical level, right? Reorienting ourselves, as it were, to be in alignment with our spirit or our higher selves. Now, with Uranus at the apex, it electrifies, if you will, the waters. It actually grounds the electrical nature of the planet Uranus into Earth energy. And it shocks loose the emotional debris that the Grand Water Trine has been softening us up with. It is also waking us up, shake you awake. It pushes something into clarity, right? Something maybe that's been elusive or something that you just haven't wanted to face right there in your mind, right? It's there. And now you're actually able to see it. But with Taurus involved here, it's the breakthrough that's not necessarily chaotic. It's stabilizing. It's grounding. It's the moment when you can finally see what needs to shift and then can actually do something about it. The only thing that would be missing is the will to do something about it, right? It's one thing when we all see what it is that needs to change, but then we hesitate, right? We don't have the willpower to enact the change, maybe out of a fear of being unstable, maybe a fear of, I don't know what happens if I let go of this, but also because Taurus has a comfort zone, right? And yeah, things aren't doing too badly, so I think I'll just stay here rather than changing. So we are seeing what needs to shift, and we have hopefully the chutzpah to make the shift, right? To change what is needing to be changed, to actually do something about it. Maybe we have mental patterns that are tied to old wounds, and we can finally cut the tie that binds between the two. Maybe we can initiate words that have a healing content, right, for ourselves and for others. So that this aspect, the kite pattern that's formed, makes this kind of personal for all of us and deeply personal, but maybe in different ways, right? From what we've maybe traditionally thought of as what's possible for ourselves. So the essence of this full moon, supermoon, and the kite within it, and the minor grand trine within it, is that the lunation, this time period, becomes a grand turning point, if you will, a pivot point, where the mutable grand cross shifts your narrative, shifts your perspective, which then shifts your narrative. The water trine, right, with Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, and the black moon Lilith soothes our emotional body, kind of the turmoil that's being brought up by all the changes, finding a path of soothing, of being able to be okay with the emotional changes. The kite with Uranus activating awakening, and the human design gates involved in all of this, reorganizing our rhythm and our experience. And then Chiron and Mercury healing your voice, bringing the words that need to be said forward. And this full moon marks the moment, right? On the 4th, the full moon marks the moment when you begin clearing the final debris that's been shaken loose in 2025. And that way you can step cleanly into 2026, which is on our horizon. And there is a sense of accelerated architecture happening in 2026 as finally the three pieces that have been flirting with the signs that they're in, Uranus flirting with Gemini, Saturn and Neptune flirting with Aries, Pluto not necessarily flirting with anybody, but now fully engaged in Aquarius, all coming into their movement into those signs without going backward. right? They won't retrograde backward into the other signs. So it is revelation time, but with support. You have support to see what is it that you need to see. There's breakthrough, but with grounding, Taurus breakthroughs, right? And awakening with emotional wisdom, that water trine bringing us that awakening, but also the ability to do so within taking a wise position. All right. So, questions, guys. What's going on out there? How's everybody doing? Let's see. Aloha Tom says natal sun, 13 Gemini, north and south nodes, Pisces and Virgo. This is an activated moon for you, mister. And 13 in Pleiadian astrology. And Christine says, hello, everybody. Good to see you, Christine. And any other questions? I don't see any questions, but feel free to ask some questions. Now, I want to talk about something, announcements kind of things. First of all, I have some coil-bound energy almanacs for sale. So if you missed the pre-sale back in September and did not get yours, you can get it from me and I will ship it directly to you. And on YouTube and Facebook, both, I will put how to get those in the description. So I'll have that there for you, within the hour of the show's ending this morning. And then let's see, what else is there to talk about? The upcoming, in December, I always do this. I start putting together all of the things that we need to know for 2020, whatever, the next year, 2026 in this case, so that on December 17th, when I do the astrology of 2026, I'll have all of that for you. So be looking for that information to be coming out as well. Now, I also want to tell you something interesting that I discovered yesterday. So I was having a conversation with a client on Friday, and she was recognizing a pattern in her life that seemed to repeat about every 4 to 6 weeks. And immediately, of course, my astrologer brain went to, oh, that's kind of the moon, right? And the moon forms this repeatable pattern that we see and we can chart every month. I've never particularly looked at my own, but because of her question, I started to look at hers. And I discovered something so fascinating, right? She luckily had a list of dates when things happened in her life. And some of them going all the way back to, I think 1996 was one that we looked at that came up, right? And each of those time periods, the moon was in the same sign. I was floored. I was floored. Now, it doesn't mean that every time something happens in your life that the moon is always going to be in the same place. But as we were looking at a pattern in her life, this is the pattern that emerged. And it makes me wonder about everybody else's patterns, right? So my invitation to you is to, if you're noticing repeating patterns in your life, and a lot of you will, right? A lot of you will notice them. I would need a date and a time, not necessarily a time, because I'm not drawing charts up of each event, although I could. And you would like me to do a reading of this for you in your life, be watching for that to come up for potentially a reading that you might have, because I feel like it answered so many questions for her, and when I get to present this to her, I think it's going to be so interesting, right? There's also another pattern that goes on with the moon. And this is one that I wasn't as familiar with, but there's a whole book about this kind of a pattern where the new moon and the full moon eclipses in particular, but also the new and the full moons create patterns that repeat approximately 9 months later. So in this person's life, something happened in around April of 2024. And another thing very similar happened 9 months later in 2025. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January of 2025, there was a reprisal of something that had happened, that had begun. And it was April 8th of 2024 in her chart, which happened to be a day of a solar eclipse. It began something that would come to closure over a period of time. And I found it fascinating, right? And then I counted 9 months forward from the date. So from April to the January event. And then from January, 9 months forward took us into August. That was another big event right around the same day of the month, even. And then I'm looking now for what will the next 9 month thing be, because the moon is in quarters. So there's usually 4 things, right? 4 events, something with the new, something the first quarter, the crisis point, the crisis of action. Then there is the full, and then there is the crisis of consciousness that comes in the end. So interesting, right? And I want to go back even through my own life. I'm not as good as she was at the dates things were happening. But it was a fascinating thing. So now I'm really fascinated with the moon. And in fact, Jacqueline, one of the things that had happened in her life was an NDE, a near-death experience, and how that changes one's life and perspective, and where did that happen in your moon cycle? Right? Where did that happen in the cycle of the moon? What happened, about 9 months from the closest new moon, full moon, or solar eclipse, lunar eclipse? So something I'm playing with right now. Eventually, I think I would like to get a group of us together that are interested in this and see if we can't chart from, in the future. Like, can we look ahead and see what's happening? But first, we've got to look at your moons and the natural way it moves through your own chart, in your chart, in your life, because it repeats every month, right? Every month. Not always on the same days, but close enough, right, that we can see a pattern. And then we'll take it one step further at one point here, and we're going to take a look at it through the human design, because it's moving through your human design, activating different gates at various times, and completing channels where you have hanging gates, perhaps. And at times maybe filling in complete channels, like these last couple of weeks where we had the sun and earth at 4323, completing a full channel in your chart where maybe you didn't have anything before. So it will be interesting, and I am sure it will be kind of fun to look at all of these different things and have an explanation even for the timing of things. But better than that is the ability to predict, right? Not that you can predict with certainty what exactly will happen, but if you know, for example, Jacqueline, you're talking about an accident that you had on a full moon. Well, the next level would, wherever that full moon was, whatever sign that is, whatever degree that is, when the moon is passing through there, it might be a place where you have to be super more aware of your surroundings, of what you're doing, operating a vehicle more carefully, because you might be susceptible to a pattern of accidents when, let's say, the moon is in Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius is accident prone. Aries, also Mars-driven sign. So fun stuff, right? And taking I have my own fascination with the moon. I have a rising sign that's Cancer. I have my moon in Virgo. So they're square one another almost, or in a kind of far away square, but interesting stuff. Okay, let's draw a card. And I think for today, for this full moon, I'm going to do, this was a good one. The Oracle of the Seven Energies by Colette Baron Reed. Let's see what the energy is that comes up for us for this full moon. And by the way, I'm going to take up this as a conversation in the Living Astrology community, which is called Living Astro Design Community. Go to Facebook, join the group. It's free. And we'll have this as our conversation as time goes on. Okay, there you are. And this is Endless Possibilities. Oh my God, I love this card. Look at this. Endless Possibilities. And it's card number 38, which you can't really see because of my lighting. There you go, 38. And now it's blurry, but 38 is an 11. So this might bring illumination in some respects, okay? And let's see if I can find where this is, because these are all in different orders. 38 is, okay. Here's the key concept of this card. Unlimited potential, moving beyond limiting beliefs and the filter of an unhealed past, using your awareness to discern what is possible and having the courage to leap beyond even that. You look at the world through the lens of your life experiences, personality, and conditioning. That filter determines whether you believe in an abundant universe of endless possibilities or various degrees of limitation and a finite range of options. When your expectations, unconscious or otherwise, are based on lack, it's difficult to see what is truly available to you. Make sense? Today, ask yourself what you believe. Are there limitless potential outcomes to align your energy with? Do you know intuitively that there is more to life than meets the eye? And are you willing to act on that knowledge? As you believe, so will it be for you, as your energy will attract its match in the outer world. Conditions meet expectations. Either your world remains the way it is, in various forms, yet essentially unchanging, or you become more. Everything shifts as you open yourself up to a greater version of you and a more meaningful life, discovering opportunities that better reflect your true self. This is the nature of your dynamic relationship with the divine. Today, and all week, since we have a full moon that's mimicking this exact same thing, stand with open arms, knowing that you are stepping into beauty, into experiences that are potent and transformative. You are walking past the line that you and others drew long ago, leaping over what was and toward what will be. You are more than you were. Now, what is it that you want? Okay, the treasure is yours. You just need to believe it. I love it. This is a great card, has a lot of meaning for us in the context of everything that we've talked about this morning. So thank you, universe, for the validation. Thank all of you for joining me this morning. I will see you on Friday. On Friday, we have a weekend coming up that's rather quiet. So I'm hoping to take a dive into Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, right? Because technically speaking, we're getting ready to move into Ophiuchus rather than having just moved into Sagittarius. And let's chat about that and see what we find. All right, everybody, take care. Bye for now.